Get on my level, people. Are you watching wrestling yet? I've given you weeks to get on board. So check out some wrestling. I've been watching it, I've been enjoying it, and I've been discussing it every couple days with Tristan Glover, who is joining me here from the Martial Arts Film Freak channel on YouTube.
If you like entertainment, whether it be movies, video games, TV, comic books, whatever, then wrestling is for you.
It's a little bit, yeah, it's a little bit of soap operas. It's a little bit of like combat sports. It's a little bit of
It's a little bit
uh
of superheroes.
yeah, all of the things. And it's been a lot of fun. I think I consider myself still to be a relative novice, though I have been getting a little more into it over the past couple of weeks, in large part thanks to the enthusiasm of people like Tristan.
Yeah, I'm in too deep. There's no getting out from me.
So we had a pretty big week over the last weekend. We are recording this on Friday morning, so by the time this does pop out, there might have even been an episode of SmackDown. But on this episode, we're going to be discussing WWE's Night of Champions. On the AEW side, there's been a night of, did you say Rampage?
Dynamite.
There's been a night of Dynamite, and but that's okay because the last thing that I saw, in fact, the only thing that I've seen by AEW was on Sunday night, and it was called Double or Nothing. So we had WWE Night of Champions on Saturday during the daytime here in the US, and then we had Double or Nothing from AEW the following night. I watched it via an app called Bleacher Report, which is a whole other conversation that we are going to jump into. But before we get to the AEW side of things, let's talk about Night of Champions. This was a PLE, premium live event that I watched over on Peacock. Actually, during the event itself, which was a good time, and this was one of those notorious Saudi shows, Tristan, which you told me a little bit about.
Yes, but this one went very well, which they are on. I think maybe a three streak, a hat trick of good shows in Saudi Arabia.
So, when was their first one?
2017 maybe.
So, three good ones to three bad ones, something like
No,
that.
they've there's been probably six or seven, and most of them, and at least half of them have been just terrible.
Were they consecutive and then they got better?
Yes.
Ah, interesting. All right. You told me a really good story last time, and to be honest with you, we lost about half of what we discussed because of my critical error of not recording, which never a good idea. I had my side of the conversation audio only, but that wouldn't make for a very good time. But
It would have been very
apparently
interesting.
it would have been something. Apparently half of the roster of WWE got held up in Saudi Arabia.
Yep, just some sort of disagreement with Vince McMahon and somebody important in Saudi Arabia, and they were like, "Well, you can't leave the country."
Oh man. See, I need to go back and watch that one. That was not this year's event. Have they
I don't
always?
know if you need to watch that event, but you need to find and watch that SmackDown because that was like because they did that on a Thursday, and then everybody needed to fly home and do SmackDown, but 85% of the roster couldn't even be there.
So they brought in people from like NXT, and they brought
Yeah.
in people from, did you tell me
It was just it
AEW?
was no, it was just they brought in people from NXT, and then there was like a handful of people who either could make it out or just didn't go to Saudi Arabia. So they worked with like max like 10 WWE people or 10 SmackDown people, and then everybody else was all NXT.
That's pretty cool.
And
That's
it was
pretty cool.
amazing.
So one person that did attend this year in Saudi Arabia for his first time was Sami Zayn, and that has significance beyond just showing up for the first time, right?
Yeah, he hasn't been because he is he's he's Canadian, but he is of Syrian descent. And I believe there are not amazing relations between Saudi Arabia and Syria. However, with Sami Zayn's appearance there, I think is because things have smoothed over a little bit and he feels more comfortable going.
Let's tell the truth, man. WWE is single-handedly changing the world landscape when it comes to political unrest.
Pro wrestling saves the world.
It was interesting. So a little bit more on the social commentary side of it. I noticed when Trish and Becky came out. Well, I noticed two things. First of all, I noticed that their costumes were fucking awesome. I loved Becky's costume in particular. It was a little Kill Bill, a little like NASCAR driver or
Bruce
something.
Lee.
Yeah, yeah,
Sick of this
yeah.
Kill Bill taking over the yellow jumpsuit.
Well, hey, let's be honest. I think Uma Thurman weren't better.
She's in a better movie.
All right, fair enough. What's the Bruce Lee movie?
Game of Death, where he's
Okay,
only in 20% of it.
okay. So Trish Stratus fought Becky Lynch. Trish Stratus also had a cool costume. This one looked a little more like it was evocative of like a diving suit to me. Like when I looked at it, I was like, oh, she's about to go scuba diving or something.
Yeah, similar
But
vibe, but it was the all black with the pink stripe down the side.
and also a very cool costume. If I'm being honest, I didn't like it less than normal, but there is a reason why they were wearing these head to toe full body suits, and that is because the gender dynamics are still a little bit different over in Saudi Arabia, which I was looking, dude, like focusing as much as I could into the audience. I think I saw three women in the entire thing. So I don't know what the reasoning like are women allowed to be there? I don't know about all that, but I do know that the wrestlers were told to perform in basically head to toe clothes.
It's like, yeah, the neck down pretty much, which is
Um,
it's the first, maybe even the first two shows. I don't think they even took women over there. Yeah, because even they had Renee Young on commentary and she didn't even go.
really?
And then like eventually, like the first show they had women there. I remember Natalia came out and like someone threw like a bottle of water at her,
Oh, they were
like as she
not
was
they were
walking
not
down the
warm.
ramp.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
So it's improved.
like when you were in high school and a girl would get in trouble for like wearing a spaghetti strap tank top and they would
Mhm.
make them go to the principal's office and grab something out of the lost and found.
Yeah, because it's the woman's fault. Women are
Didn't
the problem.
didn't the girls have to wear like big giant oversized t-shirts the first couple years?
Yeah, so they wore the full body thing, like similar to the how they did now, where it's just like a head, like a neck to toe, coverage, and they wore the big t-shirts pretty much. Yeah,
It's so funny looking. I
like they
saw some
had to cover
pictures.
skin and curves, I guess.
Yes, yes, because as you said, women should be ashamed of the bodies that they were born with.
Yes, men's sexual desires are not the problem. Women are the problem.
It's an interesting thing though. Yeah, I was looking in the audience and while I said there was three women in the audience there, to be fair, I normally see like six in American audiences, so it's not like a big difference.
The first show they did, the whole like front few rows was all the rich people of Saudi Arabia because
Mm.
it's like this time it just looked like front row seating. But the first show, I remember it was like dudes in like a whole ass love seat.
Oh wow.
Like just and like so like it looked like the front row was not a lot of people because it was just the rich people with their big fancy
It's
chairs.
spaced way out. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I thought it was a great show. I really did. I think that there were a couple notable differences from conversations you and I had, which in the past, I think you said they really catered to what the Saudi prince wanted,
Mhm.
regardless of the implications on the storyline. And to my uh observations, it looked to mostly be current storylines that were playing out on the PLE. So like it didn't feel like they were bringing 100-year-old wrestlers back after a decade of retirement. Everything seemed pretty current. Can you speak to that?
Yeah, no, that's been the case for at least the last two, maybe three.
Right on.
Yeah, the first few 100% just what does the Saudi prince want to see? Bring him out. He requests Yokozuna. Yokozuna's dead. They'll bring out a sumo wrestler that looks like Yokozuna.
Sure.
bring Undertaker, Kane, Shawn Michaels out of retirement because he wants that. Just all terrible, terrible things. And the past few, they're like, okay, these are not doing well. These are disasters. They're getting people hurt. Actually, like Undertaker wrestled Goldberg, and Goldberg pretty much dropped Undertaker on his head, and that man's too old to be dropped on his head.
Yeah, it makes
Stop
me
doing this.
like one man's disaster is another man's good time. And for that reason alone, I want to go back and check some of those out. Understanding it's probably not best for the sport or the athletes, but hey, there's a level of fun to be had there. So going into the event itself, it started off with what I thought to be very underwhelming match, but maybe it's because my expectations were high, Tristan. We had Seth Rollins and AJ Styles for that WWE World Heavyweight Champion belt. What did you think?
This was an all right match. It didn't feel like anything more than a good TV main event, but it was all right. I think it should have been a longer match. And if you make it longer, they can draw it out and make it far more dramatic. And I think because they had to go on first, which going on first is a good spot for the wrestlers. Like if you're trusted to go out first, you're trusted like to get the party going. Like that's a good spot for them. Like Chris Jericho, I think, has said like the best spots are the first match and the last match.
Interesting.
And if you're the second match, then it's like, who cares?
I don't know that I agree with that, but I'm no Chris Jericho, so what the fuck do I know? But I feel like
he's just saying it's like the best spot as the performer. Like that's you're trusted to open it or you're trusted to finish it.
I feel that. I would think conventionally that would be true because it's up to you to, like you said, get the crowd warmed up, get them ready for a night of excitement. It's also up to, I think, the last performers to elevate everything that came before it and hope that none of the matches before it were so electric that people are fucking kind of hit capacity as far as their level of excitement.
That has happened.
Yeah. I've seen it happen. And it was with the was it Roman Reigns and no, it was the Usos versus the KO and Sami Zayn, I believe.
Yeah, like you think like the crowd was drained from the previous match before that? Gotcha. The one that I always think of is I think it was WrestleMania, maybe 25. I could be wrong. Shawn Michaels and Undertaker go out like the next to last match, not the main event, but the one before. They go out there, and to this day, still one of the greatest matches of all time. The next match is Triple H and Randy Orton for the main event, and they can't top it.
Yeah, I can imagine that scenario playing out from time to time, and that is tough. And maybe that's why it's good to have a reliable but relatively uneventful opening fight where there is a belt that changes hands, so it pushes Rollins' legacy forward. He's the longest reigning champion with that belt, apparently.
Yeah, so far, setting the tone. He's got to set the tone for it. What is it? I'm trying to think of how many championships he's held. He's held the WWE championship, I want to say 4 or 5 times before already.
Yeah, he's a great wrestler, and there were some things where he was trying to sell the leg that I think worked better than others. And you had told me, and you're not the only one, that AJ Styles is a exceptional wrestler, one of the greatest wrestlers. And to me, this match was not indicative of either of them being like top tier.
Yeah, I don't think this was either one of their best match, but it was serviceable.
All right, well, let's move on. We got a whole bunch of other stuff to talk about. I'm trying to find the entire lineup here. Let's see if I can pull. Do you know who the next match was?
Not off the top of my head.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we don't have to go in exact order. Plus, there's a whole lot of other stuff to talk about. But I know that Trish Stratus and Becky Lynch fought. As I mentioned, they had pretty cool costumes. And I think it was a really good match. I've seen Becky wrestle. I've actually seen Becky wrestle in person just a couple months back. It was like one of the first WWE. It was the first I've been to since 1999 or something like that. So I thought she was great. I mean, the crowd immediately comes alive when she comes out onto the ring. I never really saw her to be like a such a brawler as I did this time around, but there was like some fucking hair pulling and some stomping and some hitting. Like it was a kind of dirty match. And I always look at Becky as like a clear face, but like some of the shit she does is kind of.
Oh, she is the, like you're saying, brawler. She is the Stone Cold Steve Austin of the women's division.
What does that mean?
Meaning like she's not gonna be a clear cut babyface. She's gonna be kind of an anti-hero, and she's not gonna be the most technically proficient wrestler, but she'll fucking scrap with you.
Okay, yeah, I like that. I think it works as a character attribute, and it plays really well into what's going on right now. I guess the whole thing is because Trish is a like a legend, like a old school wrestler who kind of paved the way for women. Her thing is like thank you, Trish.
Yeah, like she keeps bowing to people like you're welcome and all that.
Yeah, and she actually ended up winning this match, which I believe was the first of our. No, I think you called Trish. I don't remember exactly what we discussed, but I know that both of us knew that Seth was going to win.
Well, she had help. She had Zoe Stark came out and nailed Becky with her finisher, which I'm a big fan of. I can't think of the name of it, but she just like she flips them over and then hits them with the knee in the face as they come down.
Yeah,
yeah, and so she's aligning with Trish Stratus.
You sent me a picture of Becky after that match, and her face was like completely gnarled up. I think they must have used like one of those like high contrast filters, and Becky must have like smeared the blood all over her face because she did have a good nosebleed, like no question about it. I don't know how the fuck it ended up everywhere else on her face, but I thought as of like May 5th, they weren't allowed to share those pictures on social media anymore.
I mean, I guess it's they're not, the wrestler isn't allowed to share it on their social media. So it may have been from like WWE's Twitter or something.
Interesting.
Maybe okay. WWE is allowed to post about it, but the wrestler is not.
It sounds right. Next we had Gunther versus Mustafa Ali. Dude, I thought Mustafa is a sleeper fucking he's a rock star in the ring. I thought this was a great match.
Like I said, he is one of my favorites. He is one of the most underutilized, in my opinion. He won me over several years ago in 205 Live. I love the guy. I said this was either going to be like an incredible underdog kind of match where the bad guy's going to win, or it's going to be a total squash. I'm happy to see it was like a big underdog kind of thing, and it was great.
He had a bunch of great fucking spots in it. I'm struggling to pull many of them right now just because we've watched a lot of wrestling since then, but it was a really impressive. He sold being this underdog and still taking the hits, and Gunther did a good job as well of like making him seem like a viable threat while also always seeming to be in control of the match. It was good, man. It was like there was a couple times
chemistry.
Yeah, I liked it a lot. It made me like Gunther a little bit more. He's not one of my favorites yet. I do kind of like the Imperium entrances, but I don't know. Like, I understand a lot of people like them, so I'm like,
you need to go back go on Peacock and go to Clash at the Castle, which was the show they did in the UK a handful of months ago, and watch his match with Sheamus.
Okay.
Like if you remember the match he had with Sheamus and Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania, it's that times 100.
So they chop each other 5,000 times.
They beat the crap out of each other.
All right.
And if you really want to see something that looks painful, go to his NXT UK match against Ilya Dragunov, because it's no crowd. Like, they don't do like the Thunderdome thing with the screens. It's just empty ring. And they beat the shit out of each other. And they're chopping the hell out of each other. One of them's just constantly getting hit in the neck. At least he made Ilya Dragunov just look like ground beef in that match, and it's incredible.
All right. I'm into it. I'll check those out. I was watching a movie last night. I do plan to go back and watch some of the matches that you and I have discussed in the past, in particular the Guerrero, Mysterio, and CM Punk that you told me to watch. That one I'm definitely going to check out. So After that, we had Asuka versus Bianca Belair. And I think this was an upset that nobody saw coming, but also on the heels of the crowd reaction to Bianca at the last PLE event. I don't think that either of us should have been as surprised as we were, but I definitely did not see Asuka coming out victorious and taking the title from Bianca.
I did not. I was thinking Bianca's going to keep holding on to it, maybe to like SummerSlam, or maybe somebody's going to win Money in the Bank and cash in on her. But no, I mean, I'm happy to see it. I always enjoy Asuka as champion. Asuka is one of the best women they have, and I don't know if she. I mean, she can always probably take more losses because she's great, but you got to give her a win at some point.
She is phenomenal. Watching her in the ring, I'm very impressed with her. I don't like the character. I actually went back and watched some of the older Royal Rumbles, women's Royal Rumbles from like 2018, 2019.
She won the first one.
I like her old persona character more than I like this like crazy face. Yeah.
She did that, I think, more in Japan. And I think in Japan, though, she took it to a different level.
It's hard. It's hard for me to root for that character.
But I mean, I think she is supposed to be the heel, though. So that's good.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. I hear the Fiend was like way more popular than Bray Wyatt. I guess Mick Foley worked as Mankind with a mask on, but seldom do I see one of those masked characters and like want to see them hold a title.
I mean, some people are pushed to it in a different way. You know, you get Rey Mysterio in 2006 as like a major underdog.
I think that's a really valid point, and also doesn't fit into that archetype that I'm talking about, because I think the lucha libre guys are like that's like a different thing. Well, I'm okay with that.
So like if you can go to like a face paint character like Stardust, and it's like nobody wanted to see Stardust win a title.
Yeah. Stardust is Cody Rhodes' father.
No, Stardust was Cody Rhodes.
Stardust was Cody Rhodes?
Yeah.
Okay. I need to go back and look at some of it. What was his dad's name?
Dusty Rhodes.
He never did the Stardust character?
His brother is Goldust.
Okay. Yeah. That's who I'm thinking of. Wow. Okay. I need to see Stardust. Interesting. All right. Then we had talk about a squash match. Rhea versus Natalya by pinfall. Hilarious.
Yeah, this went the way it was supposed to go. Natalya she's like the person who's been on the roster like the longest, or at least of the women. But she's a great technical wrestler. She, in my opinion, has zero charisma, zero character. And this sounds so harsh, and I apologize, but I could never give a damn about Natalya. And like at one point a couple years ago, she won the women's championship, and I was like, okay, good for you. You've been here a while. You deserve this run. But let's get this over with. Like I hate to say I don't need to see Natalya ever again, but I don't really need to see Natalya ever again.
I was taking this same energy to my buddy Jonathan, and he was like, dude, the disrespect. She's got all of these accolades.
She's got legacy.
Yeah. And we were right, dude. Jonathan, if you're watching this, fucking put the money on the table next time, dude. We'll see what happens, bro. Yeah, I thought it was a great match. It, like you said, it kind of went the way that it was supposed to. It put Rhea even like more over than I think she's already been. It's also helping to put heat on Dominic, who is like red hot, hotter than the sun right now as far as this goes. And I think I heard, and sorry, I had a little disconnection issue. Maybe it was you and I that were talking that is it possible that Dom wins Money in the Bank?
He is I don't think he's a good contender for it. I would like him to get a mid-card title at some point, whether it be United States or Intercontinental. Probably United States. Well, but he's on Raw, so I guess that would be the Intercontinental. I would like him to go for a mid-card one. No, I've got some other people I'd like to see in the Money in the Bank there.
Okay. So would you say, I guess you would say Judgment Day are mid-card, but then Rhea is clearly like top billing when it comes to women.
Well, yeah, you can have a whole group and just give each of them different pieces of gold.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like that like Damian Priest is one of those guys that really could go on to the next
He
level,
could.
but as part
He'd
of
be a
that
good Money in the
faction,
Bank guy. Yeah.
yeah. All right, well, we'll see how that goes. Brock Lesnar versus Cody Rhodes. Technical submission victory by Brock Lesnar. What do you think?
Uh, I guess it was the right way to go. I think this is going to be a trilogy. You know, Cody wins the first one, bloodies the shit out of him. Brock wins this one, making him pass out with a submission. Making him pass out is probably the right way instead of having him tap. You know, it makes the guy look better to pass out from pain than to have him give up.
Yeah. And also, I feel like this is exactly what you said was going to happen. I mean, not
I don't even remember what I
necessarily the
said.
pass out by submission, but I think we kind of were speculating that it's going to go Cody, Brock, Cody in a trilogy. And I think there was another storyline that you were comparing it to. I don't know if it was Cena. I don't know. I
I don't
don't
remember.
know.
I don't.
Okay, well, we've got the Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn match. Real quick. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn versus Roman and Solo. This was a cool match. The ring entrance in particular was like just really good television.
Oh yeah, like Sammy is always giving it 110%. But when you see, I love this Sammy. This is some of the best Sammy.
How so?
He's always going out there. He's talked about it before on some podcasts, but like he's always gonna throw out 110% because he like every crowd like deserves that for him. So he's always given that performance. But he's just on such a hot streak and he is riding it so well that like he's no matter what happens right now, he's like untouchable.
And then he comes out to this Saudi show, hasn't been to one previous to this, speaks in the native language. I don't want to say what it is, Arabic.
I think, yeah.
And ends up just, it was really cool to see. I think, I was kind of left on the outside of it, not knowing what he was saying, but I don't even think that's really as significant as seeing him say it in the first place. It was really cool. Ended up being a great match. It was cool to see the way that Roman and Solo were working with each other. To see Roman in a tag team match in the first place was kind of an interesting dynamic. Kevin Owens always just comes into the ring like that 110% that you were talking about. He just always comes in with such an intensity that it's hard not to root for the guy. He's another one that I don't like love his character, but his wrestling, like his stature and his physique, in contrast with his intensity and the way that he comes out there and just wrecks like these people who would appear to be physically dominant, is really fucking cool to see.
He's the prize fighter. Fight Owens fight. Yeah, no, they're all a great pairing. And then of course the ending was probably about as perfect as it could be.
So what happened?
So the Usos come out to help. Solo Sikoa is holding up Sammy. They both go for double super kick. Sammy gets out of the way, hits Solo. Roman gets in, starts shoving both of them around. What are you guys doing? You're ruining everything. We're just trying to help. Keep shoving them around. I think it was it Jimmy or was it Jimmy or Jay that said screw it and kicked him in the face?
It was Jimmy.
Was it Jimmy? Yeah. Jimmy kicks him in the face, and Jay is just like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, "I'm doing something you should have done a long time ago." Kicks him again.
Yeah. So maybe the disintegration of the bloodline, but SmackDown's tonight, so we don't know exactly what's happening as a fallout from this yet. But man, it was during Roman's 1000th day as the reigning champion of like several belts. I think he had one of them for 1,000 days, but
The undisputed WWE Universal Champion
for 1,000 days, loses it by his brother fucking straight up kicking him in the face. Well, who won?
Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens won.
Okay, so they actually won the match.
They spoiled his reign. You know, he's still the champion, but he can't be like he can't be happy about having a victory. He's got to be like, I lost, and my brother and my cousin kicked me in the face.
Yeah. This was really good TV as well. I think the Bloodline story is one that I think has divided fans for a while now, just because it seemed to be never ending and kind of spinning its tires. But now that there's like some actual movement on it, I think people are excited about this story again.
Yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how this comes back around with Cody, whether it be Cody winning Money in the Bank or going all the way to the Royal Rumble again. Because I feel like it has to come back to Cody, but all the stuff going on with the bloodline. Do you want somebody in the bloodline to take a belt off of him? I don't know.
Is this possibly always been? Yeah, it's crazy because there's so many interconnected things. Like, has the bloodline story always been the Jimmy versus Roman story? And maybe that one can come to a conclusion before the Cody and Roman conflict comes back to the forefront, or like, I don't know. There's so many ways they could go.
It started with, did we say Jimmy or Jay? Jimmy kicked him, right?
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
It started with Jay because Jay was the first person to be brought in, and he was super defiant at first. And he's the one, like, if you just look at what's going on every week, everybody has like a specific sort of emotion kind of going on. Solo's just flowing with it. Roman's Roman. Jay is clearly pissed off, or Jimmy is pissed off. And Jay is the one there that's conflicted because he's been pushed into submission by Roman. But he wants to stick with his brother, but then Sammy broke his heart. And his reaction to Jimmy kicking Roman was his exact same reaction to Sammy hitting Roman with the chair.
Yeah.
Being like, what? Like, everything's falling apart around him, and he's the one stuck in the middle of everything. He's lost.
Interesting. So there's a good angle there. Yeah, man, I really liked it. I think this was one of my favorite pay-per-views that I've seen, or PLEs that I've seen. There wasn't like the big bloody spot in it. There wasn't like any there wasn't anything that walking away from it in itself was super noteworthy, other than the storyline with the bloodline. And I think they pulled that off really fucking well. I'm very interested to see where things go on SmackDown. And that's pretty much the wrap up for our thoughts on WWE's Night of Champions. Y'all let us know what your thoughts are down in the comments section. And if you want to hear about even more wrestling, then check down in the link. I will post a description, because we are going to be talking about AEW's what was it called?
Double or Nothing.
Double or Nothing. This is the first AEW thing I've ever watched. It was a pay-per-view event. And yeah, you'll get to hear my thoughts on that, as well as Tristan's insight. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to click the like button. Also subscribe. That way you can stay up to date with all of the terrible content. If you want to see more from Tristan, check out Martial Arts Film Freak down in the comments or in the description. I will post a link to that as well. And until next time, and on behalf of both of us, be terrible. Peace.